University and
Sorry.
Sorry, we're going to be talking today about it was really a conversation about the partnership between Keele University and Georgian Technical University. This partnership was created initially as part of a British Council Creative Spark funding, and it's now entering its 5th year. And some of the things that we want to talk to you about today is how this partnership was formed, some of the reasons why both sides, both University of Keele and in Georgia, entered this partnership, some of the achievements that we've had to date, the challenges that we've encountered along the way and the ways that we've started to overcome that, and our plans for how to make this sustainable, not only between GTU and Keele, but in other institutions in the UK, Georgia and beyond. Okay, so we're going to start first. I'll do a quick run through of the agenda just to let everyone know what we're expecting. So we're going to start with the keynote speech from Dr. Colin Rigby, who is a reader and director of enterprise at Keele Business School. And Colin is is the primary partner of this partnership and has conducted nearly all of the early work, and as he continues to be important throughout this partnership. And then we're going to move to Boris Skitlendia and Luca at Georgian Technical University, who are going to talk us through the reasons why GTU were looking for a partnership of this type and what they have got out of that. And then I'm going to briefly talk to you about some of the things that we've achieved and those challenges and our plans for the future and what we think the legacy of this programme is going to be. And I'm hoping that that's quite concise and that we're not talking at you for too long, and we move into a international knowledge exchange panel discussion where I'll introduce Colin, Luca and Boris, but also our Dr. Nick Gostick, who is the director of the Smart Innovation Hub at Keele. Tamara, if you give us a wave, Tamara, who is a Georgian postgraduate student who is joining us at Keele for 12 weeks to work on enterprise projects and to engage with enterprise. So she arrived with us in May and she'll be leaving at the end of July, and hopefully she'll be able to add to that discussion. And then fingers crossed, Hande from British Council, who's their programme leader, to talk about these aims on a wider scale. Okay, and then we'll have a break and go into breakout discussions. And I'm hoping in the panel, if anyone has any questions, please write them in the chat. I would love this to be as interactive as possible. For any of the sessions, I'll try to keep an eye on the chat, even when I'm presenting, but I would like this to be as interactive as we can. So now can I introduce Dr. Colin Rigby, who's going to give us a brief history of enterprise at Keele and how we got to this partnership. I don't know how to unmute him, Rob.
It's okay, I've found it myself, don't worry. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for joining this morning. It's a real pleasure to share with you some of the sort of materials that we've been looking at in terms of this partnership. This partnership has been a really important part of Keele's strategy in terms of its enterprise and international agenda. So I just wanted to share with you a few thoughts about enterprise in general and enterprise specifically at Keele to contextualise the sort of discussion that we're going to be having. So during my tenure as an academic in higher education, the sort of landscape has changed from one of being the development of knowledge and scholarly skills to a much more neoliberalist informed utilitarian transactional relationship between HE as providers of skills and students as customers, which leads us to the point where graduates now feel that they need to develop capabilities and attributes to enable them to successfully negotiate essentially an ever-changing global economic environment. Increasingly, employers expect graduates to have traits such as innovation, adaptability, resilience, and flexibility, and what's more, an enterprising mindset. The morphology of career is no longer of a trainer profession and working in a single organisation for a long time, but rather a much more portfolio type of approach. The role of the university, in my view, is to support the economic community. Well, whilst that's said, that does not mean that the university should be at the whim of the economic environment, nor should it ignore other missions in terms of its scholarship and the creation of new knowledge. Rather, the university can now take its place and should take its place at the heart of the knowledge supply chain. The role of the university, therefore, is to develop these ideas of enterprise education and support the economy by enabling students in university college to develop the characteristics, attributes and skills that will enable them to make effective contributions to the wealth creation society. The Wilson Review in 2012 acknowledged the importance of enterprise education for students, and the Quality Assurance Agency produced guidance to help these seeking to embed enterprise and entrepreneurship across the curriculum. But universities have a particular type of resistance to this idea of things that they often describe as real life. And yet they are still really well placed to support and facilitate student expectation through not only domain-specific intellectual collateral of the teaching staff, but many of whom have distinguished industrial careers before they move into education. They have great facilities, they have cutting-edge research skills, and their knowledge transfer skills. Not only that, they also have close partnerships with businesses and networks and other supporting infrastructure. So actually, they're in a really good place to support this sort of movement. It's this embedding process that I believe is not an alternative to traditional forms of HE education, nor should it be subject to a false binary between fundamental and applied work, but rather be seen as a way of better preparing graduates for work by drawing on and enhancing the best traditions of both. Reorientation of the curriculum is possible, integrating enterprise-specific learning aims into the programme to embed enterprise with research, which can have a positive impact on students' and academic experience. It also stresses the importance of enterprise education socially and economically, and its relevance to students and education. Enterprise education is ever-changing, and this is in a large part of its intellectual excitement, but it remains an extreme amount of effort to remain current in its practice. This can often feel impossible given the demanding schedule and complexities of academic life. The usual sources of inspiration and information are found in drawing on professional organisations such as the EEUK and offer a plethora of resources. And these sorts of workshops become so important as we share these really hard-won lessons that we have in terms of our practice. Now, just to say a few words about Keele's approach. Keele has what I would call a post-proto agenda in terms of its enterprise education. Yeah, so Keele's approach is based in two interlocking positions, which may appear, I think, on first look to appear relatively trivial, but nonetheless focus strategic intent towards the enterprise education. The first is the facets of the approach, and there we very much draw on four different elements. The first is authenticity, where student experience and learning are based in dilemma-based challenges from real organisations that are part of their own work. The second is creativity. The assessment must require creative problem-solving techniques. The third is disruption for both the learner and for the organisation which has the dilemma, challenging students to renegotiate their relationship with theory in light of practice, and for organisations to have keen minds asking and challenging their own practice. And the lastly, and certainly not leastly, integrity. The work completed at the highest possible principles of academic work. The second position is the one that always sounds overly romantic when I say it out loud, and I subscribe to wholeheartedly. And that is the idea that everybody wins. This allows the need of the stakeholders involved in enterprise teaching to be identified and to be acknowledged. Too often in experiential pedagogy, placements and such forth, they can lead to economic community to being used as a resource for the universities and student learners. The simple but effective approach assumes that all stakeholders requirements are considered and provide an extra dimension to the sort of coherence of the sorts of courses that we're looking at. Yeah. So Keele's position, is to develop innovative and responsive programs that meet the needs of employees and students, that respond to the demands of the economy and continues to explore new market opportunities with effective strategies to shape plans with partners that respond to local economic growth opportunities and social priorities. That all students enjoy their learning, are able to be ambitious and have very high standards of academic and personal achievement, enable them to progress to employment. But further, that studying enterprise through teaching, training, learning, assessment and support include resources and inclusive learning environments that are consistently of a high quality. And the excellent management that will ensure the highest possible standards, the outstanding management process that maintain financial stability and continuously improve the efficient use of the resources within the university. If these elements can be embraced, students can be able to put theory into practice through their authentic experience at the appropriate level and further develop their critical self-reflective practice while preparing for work and enhancing CVs. And these were the underpinning fundamentals that were under the programme that we put together for the Creative Sparks programme. Thank you very much for listening, and I'm delighted to see how some of these were put into action by our partners. And let's start the conversation. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Colin. I couldn't unmute myself. I'm not very good at this. Okay, thank you very much, Colin. That was a really interesting background to Keele's position on enterprise, and hopefully gives you an idea of some of the reasons why Keele was very keen to enter a partnership of this type. And now we're going to hand over to Boris and Luca from Georgian Technical University and let them introduce themselves, GTU and Georgia as a place for our partnership, and the motivations behind why you were involved and some of the things that you've got out of this.
Thank you, Emma. Let me share presentation.
We can see that, Boris. Thank you.
So first of all, thank you very much for this opportunity, and it's really big pleasure for us to be participant. This is very nice workshop. So I am Boris Gitolendia, Associated Professor at the Georgian Technical University, and I'm Executive Manager of Creative Spark project here in GTU. And with together my colleague Luca, we will present today kind of background and give you some information about our achievements. Let me start about brief information. GTU, so Georgian Technical University, it is one of the biggest educational institutions in Georgia, and it is the highest engineering school even in Caucasian region. So GTU is a state university. It was established 1 century ago. Actually, this year we are celebrating 100 years anniversary. So as I mentioned, GTU is quite big university to compare size of country. We have 12 faculties. We are almost covering all engineering study programs for educational level, so such as mechanical engineering, transport engineering, civil engineering, and many others. And also we have faculty of humanity or social science, business management. But also the GTU has biggest number of vocational educational programs in Georgia. So there can be mentioned many information about GTU, but I think it's enough. And if you will have any question after, we can continue. So some background about country's entrepreneurial business community. We put here a report from the 2016 years, which says that level of education for the business and entrepreneurship it's okay, but suggestion was just to encourage people and society to do more entrepreneurial activities and be more active with the incubators and innovation research and things like this. But there must be mentioned that situation slightly changed after this research, because in Georgia now we have many incubators, fab labs, even we have governmental agency. This is Georgian Innovation and Technology Agency, which is quite huge institution, and they are working with local government, with the universities. There is many different opportunities for people who want to really to apply some entrepreneurship programs. Country's economic situation, it's of course it's quite problematic. There is many reasons, but the most big problem we have with our neighbors, which has, Russia, which has quite big influence in general situation. Our country's 20% is occupied, and so we still need to do many things. But most problematic things related to collaboration between business and higher education institution. We thought here it is lack of experience, and also this is problem of culture we think, because many things left from Soviet Union educational systems. Okay, big companies, they really working with us. They are coming, asking, although they need good students, they say we will employ them. So there is kind of communication, but we have more problem with the small and medium enterprise or companies. So we need to do more things here. By the way, this was one of the main reasons why we really wanted to work with Keele, because we know they have very good experience in this regard. Just small information how we start. So as you already know, Creative Spark, this is 5 years initiative of British government, and they really wanted to encourage entrepreneurial mindset or ecosystem regarding the post-Soviet Union countries, and GTU has partnership with Keele, and now we have the FUSIAR project. But the start was a little bit, I think it was interesting. I would like to share it with you. So when BC, I mean a British Council, announced this application call, there from them was a huge promotion. They did a lot of presentation. They came to the universities and they asked just to apply for it. And also they said us that they send us the list, quite long list of UK universities. And they said all universities are encouraged to be partners this kind of initiative. So we choose 14 institution or some units, and we send them initial letters, but unfortunately we did not get any answer. So we get some quickly, but they said, so unfortunately we cannot because we are busy and other reasons. Some still not a response, and some response after deadline. So as soon as we was getting to the deadline, we realized that there is problem, because we really wanted to apply for this application, but we could not find partners. After I personally went to the international office here at GTU and asked the head of office, maybe GTU has some partnership with someone from UK. And he said, yeah, we have, there is Keele University, very good university, and I can link you with them. And started our collaboration by leading Mr. Colin Rigby. We set working group, and we really managed to apply for this funding. And some months or weeks later, we got this financing. So small lesson here is new partnership is always good. We have to do a lot of things for the new partnership, but existing partnership is more sustainable. And here we start. But now I will pass presentation flow to Luca, which will present some more specific results what we achieved here. Please, Luca.
Thank you, Boris. So first, why we wanted the partnership and to get into the project and start working on it was the first and the general reason was that we wanted to develop and create like a framework for entrepreneurial learning and strengthen it, because we did not have these types of learning and experience at our university before. And this general aim was based on two main pillars, we can say. The first was developing an enterprise program by which we would be able to teach this enterprise and innovation directions at our university. And also the second was to increase the capacity of GTU Innovation Center, which was just created within the previous Erasmus Plus project, and it lacked support and sustainability and also experience, and we did a lot in terms of this. I will tell you this about this later. And also we wanted to encourage the teaching and training and willingness to develop the infrastructure by introducing various incentives and rewards. And here I would like to mention Big Idea Challenge, which is each year of this project held and our students take part in this program, and also with the help of our excellent partners, we managed to create some other incentives too, including student mobility and so on. And also the one of the main reason was to encourage and support the learning of English among GTU students and also enterprise representatives, which is really a big challenge at our country, especially in the field of engineering and the technical fields. And so why Keele? Why we chose Keele as our partner? Boris also Boris mentioned about it, that it was not very easy for us to find the UK partner who would like to take part in this program with us. And we found that we had existing collaboration with Keele University. Then we got know about CRISP, Keele Research and Innovation Support Program, and also other very amazing things that Keele University does in terms of business university relations and enterprise teaching. And we wanted to investigate and take a look on this existing successful model and learn what works and what doesn't work. So as of the results, as I mentioned, the GTU Innovation Center was the first center at our university which was supported students in developing their innovative ideas and ecosystem in general, and also utilizing links with representatives of enterprise and providing trainings and networking events. So within this partnership, in these 5 years, we ensured to increase the capacity of GTU Innovation Center, and also we are continuously working on its sustainability. For instance, we created a strategy of the center and also formulated the structure of this center, and provided various piloting activities, which then the center will remain to provide. And here you can see other measurable results which we wanted to present. It's just a chunk of the results. Not we actually did more within the partnership. We have like around 1,000 trained students and staff during these 5 years. Also, we held around 100 events, online or face-to-face, during these years. Also, very important is that we created 2 syllabus and incorporated it in GTU academic programs. And from September, this academic programs will be provided at our university, and also created the first spin-out at our university, and also created a short training course, which is like the first course, and it will be like the basis of the other training courses, which we will try to provide also by the paid course. And the first course was management for engineers, and we have very positive feedback and very positive and very huge interest. So we hope that our other courses which we will create will be as popular as it is. And here you can see the overall results on institutional and national level. On institutional level, it was overall improvement of entrepreneurship ecosystem at our university, which also led to structural change, and it was hugely based on the success which we created within this partnership with Keele University. So the technology transfer unit was just created at GTU, with Innovation Center being one of the elements in this unit. and this technology transfer unit will work on various directions in terms of enterprise learning, business university partnership, and collaboration, and also collaboration with other national and international incubators at our university. As well, for the national level, as we mentioned, there's improved enterprise ecosystem and infrastructure at our university, GTU, which is quite a huge university compared to size of our country, and it's one of the top, if not the top, universities in Georgia in terms of number of students. And also on national level, there was a GEA. It is not only the result of our partnership, but the whole Creative Spark, and GTU is the co-founder of Georgian GEA, which is Georgian Enterprise Education Alliance, which was, I have to say, based on the experience of EEUK and the model, and the GEA is currently still in its formulating process, and we hope it will be success. And as for the future, we have another session for future, and I believe we'll talk about it later. But as we mentioned, the Creative Spark is in its last year of the program, and we will continue to strengthen our partnership between our universities. Also, we are continuously seeking other funding sources for GTU Innovation Center other than the university support by applying for various funding sources, and Keele University has been supporting us in these terms of funding, and hope it will be success, and if not, we will continue. And also the Keele and the GTU, our project team will try to seek other international fundings to continue our partnership and sustain it. And also we are active in research collaboration. During this year, we have published several articles, and also we are also planning to publish even more. And Emma will. Emma also knows that we in Georgia we don't have many research papers. I don't think we have even one research paper to like assess and study enterprise learning and enterprise situation in country, and also and so in terms of this, we are going to publish and work on some research papers, and also we'll continue to improve relations with business and creation of new collaborations with enterprises and other national-wide enterprise hubs. So that was it. If you have any questions, we will be happy to answer. Here you can see our emails. We'll be happy to keep in touch and take a look at your feedback after the event. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Boris and Luca. That was a really good presentation, and I think from our side, it's always really lovely to see some of the things that we've managed to achieve over this partnership, and your points of view about how that partnership has gone. Just because we do have a few minutes, we're running a little bit ahead. Does anybody have any questions for Boris and Luca before we move on to the next presentation? I don't think you can unmute yourself, so you'd have to put it in the chat. Oh, hello, Peter.
I've got one question, actually. Sorry, I feel, is it okay?
Yeah, absolutely.
I arrived a bit later. Sorry. I just, my comment, I'm a great fan of the word ecosystem, and it'd be interesting to know how your definition of an ecosystem in your context differs, let's say, in Portsmouth University, because you've got ecosystem in terms of research collaborations, academics, learning with external projects, and all these kind of enterprise skills activities. But there must be different ways of conceiving of what an ecosystem is. So I'm just wondering what when you say the ecosystem, beyond the kind of general notion of collaboration between universities and external partners, if you have any thoughts, or whether you noticed any the Keele interpretation was different to GTU. Sorry, a bit of a big question, but I'm just kind of fascinated by this concept of the ecosystem.
I will try. Thank you for the question. So, my point of view, the ecosystem includes everything. What you mentioned, and maybe other things, including infrastructure, education, business collaboration, everything which can play some kind of role of peace in development general situation. This is my understanding. And maybe
So for instance, at our university, like 5 or 7 years ago, for example, if a student was interested in engaging some entrepreneurial activity or starting their own business or formulating it or incubating, they just there was no opportunity here, to be honest, only like several, but not institutional opportunity. And now there is this innovation center, and now this structure which is focused on in this direction, and these types, and also the top management of our university was and also the other structures were not very focused on these things. And after this project and creating success stories, all this has been improved. So this is how we see this.
Great, thanks.
Yeah, I think for the Keele context, it's interesting because I think that we very much, up until a few years ago, saw enterprise as a function, and it existed as a function within the university. And I think the idea of the ecosystem gave it a sense of dimension that went beyond the boundary of the university to actually include the other stakeholders. And this embeddingness of the dilemma-based type of assessment and the way in which we take particular types of organizational problems and turn them into researchable dilemmas, and then let students have at them to develop agency and so forth, that requires a much broader view of an ecosystem is the way I think of trying to capture that broadness.
Yeah, interesting. Yeah, thanks.
Thank you.
Very simple say, just one comment. So as Luca mentioned, now in GTU there is unit, there is office minimum. People can come and say, I want to do something, I have an idea, and we think that it's really improved ecosystem here. It's really a result. It was not before.
Yeah, interesting. Thanks very much. No, that's really great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. So looking at the chat, there is a few more questions. Colin, that's one of the questions I've got for the panel. So I'm saving your question till afterwards. We're not going to answer that one right now, or else you'll but there is a question from Kevin Williams about the main differences between the two countries. And I think if I'm okay to go first on this one, because I'm relatively new to this partnership. So I didn't join the Creative Partnership until it was midway in its 3rd year. But I did have the privilege of spending 4 weeks in Tbilisi as soon as we came out of lockdown to look at enterprise in Georgia and to spread sort of the message of how we do enterprise in the UK. And I think that from my point of view, the main differences between the country are really the stage of sophistication of this program. So in the UK, we've been doing this for a long time, and we've gone on a really steep learning curve about what enterprise means and what the integration of enterprise. But in terms of the operational difficulties or the operational aspects of putting that into the curriculum, I actually found that Georgia and the UK struggle with a lot of the same issues. It's just that the context that sits behind them, whether that is a political or a change in where the countries are. That context is different that sits behind them, but operationally, a lot of those challenges are very similar. And by working on those things in the UK, we can also help the partnership in Georgia. But on the other side of that, the things that happen with Georgia hold a mirror to our own practice and help us to improve on this side as well. So yeah, the main difference is the cultural background to the approach of this work, but ultimately not a lot of differences in the challenges that we face. But I will open that up to Boris and Luca as well, if you want to pitch in.
I would edit about the Colin's question. So I think there was not any resistance if you will take Keele and GTU. Maybe there was some issues regarding the procedures, what we need to take for good implementation of the project. I mean, the financial things we have to agree with too many governmental agencies just to. So the paperwork was almost a little bit challengeable, but what I say, working with Keele, it is very, very big pleasure for us. So there was no any resistance. So even we are working 24/7, they are always online. So every new idea comes in very positive ways. So we gain a lot of experience. So it is my comment, as I understand your question, right? Different there is, I think there is huge difference regarding second question. I think there is huge difference. UK is more developed country. They are very advanced. So we are like in the a little bit in the late, but the approach is very fast, and now it's really better, improved situation. So regarding entrepreneurship studies, but the collaboration with businesses still remain in very difficult level, especially for these small and medium businesses. So they don't, maybe they want to work with us, but there is no resources or not, maybe you want something, but you cannot, this is kind of situation. Large businesses, they are coming and they only asking for good students. They want just hear them and take. So, but in this regard, we have to do much more things, I think. This is my personal idea.
I've got three. Okay.
Three what? Because we're go on then. I'm going to give you a minute, Colin, and then I'm moving on.
I'll only need 30 seconds. So the first one is this idea of the university taking up its position in the economy. In the UK, certainly at Keele, we have a sort of a difficulty with that, and it's been something that we've had to overcome, a sort of resistance to that. Whereas actually in Georgia, what we found is that people are actually desperate to take up that position and to take responsibility for those sorts of things. The second one, I think, is in business culture and the way in which business cultures seek help, especially in the intellectual domain, which I think is a very big difference. I think that in the UK, we have businesses using universities as a sort of repository of knowledge and so forth. And I think the sophistication of their uses is becoming increasingly interesting. I think that's still very much a proto-agenda in Georgia. And the third one is that we are absolutely together on our love of food, only the Georgians are much better at it than we are.
I was actually going to do a slide in my presentation about food, and I thought it probably wasn't appropriate, and now I feel like I've missed an opportunity to talk about bread. So okay, so I'm going to move on now to the next stage of the thing, which is about the project outcomes and challenges, and I'm hoping that very shortly you can see my screen. Someone give me a nod to say that that's shared.
Yep, that's fine.
Thank you. Oh, I don't know what format you can see that in, because now you've disappeared off mine. Okay, so the next section of this is to talk about the project, the outcomes and the things that we've managed to achieve, and some of the challenges that we've overcome while we've been working through this project in years 1 to 5. So before I do that, I'm going to give you a more, I suppose, a very brief history, a very big detail of some of the big enterprise things that we do at Keele, and some of the things that our partners in Georgia were the most interested in terms of our enterprise delivery. So I'm not going to focus on the entire landscape of what enterprise at Keele is, because that's way too multifaceted for a 10-minute slot in a morning workshop. So I'm going to give you a very brief introduction of some of the things that we do. So starting in the business school, two of the main activities that are led by Colin and have been running for quite a long time, so student, I think 10 years, plus 10 years, is student consulting. And student consulting is a postgraduate module. It gives our postgraduate students the opportunity to work with a company full-time for 10 weeks on a company problem or an opportunity. And they do that instead of their dissertation. So it carries the same weight as a dissertation, but they're working in companies instead with the support of a Keele University supervisor and their business. And what we do is as you can imagine, over the years, we've built a big relationship with our business community, and a lot of businesses now save problems for us. But when we're talking to somebody new, we often say to them, if you can find us something on your not now pile, or your this is too hard for me to think about pile of problems or opportunities or things that you'd like to explore, and we will turn that into a researchable dilemma for our students to engage with over those 10 weeks. We expect the student to mimic the company hours for those 10 weeks, and we will fit our supervision in around that relationship that they start to forge for themselves. And student consulting is a really interesting model because it not only allows students to have something slightly different than the dissertation opportunity that they will have already had at undergraduate and would succeed in the postgraduate, but it also allows them to start taking ownership of what their future career might be and what that might be. And they start to take ownership of that journey in their own reflective practice and get some ideas for what they might want to do in the future, but also it's really, really great for their CV. One of the other big things that we do is creativity and personal development. Now, this is still working with businesses, but it's much more bounded than student consultancy. So they have around 4 or 5 days to work on and present a solution to the business. And that starts with company visits. So the entire cohort goes around, and Boris and Luca have both been on this module and sat on the coach with the students as they go business to business and learn how to ask questions, how to infer what a problem might be and start to formulate those solutions. And then at the end of the week, there is a big event where our students are responsible for cooking a 3-course dinner and presenting their solutions at the same time. So it's quite a stressful evening for them, but they're always absolutely delighted when we come to the end of that. And it's a really great experience. Now, the basis of those 2 programs, which are delivered in curricula, were the foundation of Keele, starting the Keele Research and Innovation Support Program. Now, that we lovely knows CRISP sits within our extracurricular offer, and it's part of our ERDF funded projects. And we take a business challenge or opportunity or something that they want to do. We team that up with an academic with the most appropriate skill set, a member of my team as a research and innovation advisor, and one of our students to work as an associate. And we bound that problem into something that can be solved over a fairly short span of somewhere between 5 to 12 weeks extracurricular, and we solved that problem with the business. So you can see it's student consulting, but on a slightly smaller level. And these are the modules that were most interesting to the Georgia partnership, and those are things that created the foundation of the collaboration in the early years and started to think about what we were going to do to bring that education into GTU. So I'm not going to dwell on these project aims. Boris and Luca have already explained them far better than I would. But you see, these are the aims that we went into this partnership, and this is what we're into year 1. I'm not going to say that's exactly where we are now, but I think we've done a really good job of achieving those aims, but not only that, but growing beyond them and expanding the project team. So to give you just a really brief thing of some of the things that we've managed to do in the last 5 years. So we started with our Train the Trainer events, where Colin went out to GTU to help embed enterprise into the curricula. learn how to maintain business relationship. And at that point, it had produced more than 25 certified trainers. I don't know where that stands now, Boris. I don't know if you have a new number for that, but I'm going to go with over 20. Many over 20 now, I think. One of the other things that we've managed to instigate is annual entrepreneurship days and workshops. And these are an annual event held at GTU, run by Boris and Luca, and it's a day that is dedicated to ideation, hackathon, creativity, idea sharing, and has previously included visits to other parts of Georgia, so Batumi State University, to try and expand this relationship further. Okay, we've also had many visits to the UK, and Boris and Luca have had, I'm going to say, the privilege of attending our creativity residential and all of the manic chaos and many wonderful company solutions that have been presented there. They've also been able to be part of our company projects and the relationships that we have with those businesses. And we've also worked really hard to expand those relationships out into other organisations, such as our local Chamber of Commerce and other agencies that we work. So we're trying to get into the LEP, and we do things with third sector. So we're trying to make sure that that partnership reaches as many people as possible. Okay, and Boris and Luca have already talked about this, but there was the launch of the Innovation Centre, which I did have the privilege of working in for 4 weeks, and see that it was launched in year 3, and it was also launched 2 entrepreneurship training modules. And the Innovation Centre itself is a place where people can go to have any advice about enterprise activity from both staff and students, offers grant support. And while I was in Georgia, they had their first opportunity to create a spin out and put applications in. So that is something that is gaining traction within GTU. And it's something that I know that they are really proud of, and have every right to be proud of, because it is a great addition to what GTU can offer, both of its staff and students. It's important to look at the changes. So although, I mean, a lot of the presentation and a lot of Boris and Luca's presentation is about what Keele have managed to do for GTU. And whilst that's always great to hear, this is a partnership, and that knowledge exchange works 2 ways. And our partnership with Georgia has, I don't know, given us a mirror or time to reflect on some of the things that we do at Keele, and has allowed us to not only better articulate our enterprise agenda, but grow that in a way that is more authentic and more realistic and context driven. So the partnership, I mean, details has helped us to challenge our own orthodoxy about what enterprise is, how we talk about it, how we articulate that, what are our core values, and how are we true to those in every activity that we carry out. We've managed to expand the team that is related in enterprise, both inside the business school and in the institution itself. So we're constantly bringing new people into that partnership, and we're seeing how you can embed enterprise and entrepreneurship education for activity, not just in the business school, but the wider institution and in professional services, and the realization that our professional services have a lot to add to this agenda. As I said previously, it has strengthened the articulation of our offering, but it's also strengthened the practice that we go out. And it is something that, you know, that we know that we are now true to the values that we put behind enterprise education. And it's also really important to say that GTU has specialties that just don't exist at Keele. So it allows us to take enterprise into new parts of the curriculum. So for example, GTU has a really strong engineering background. That isn't an offering that we have at Keele, and it allows us to take enterprise into a hard skill area that's a practice. And then so we start to look at better ways that you can embed enterprise across different areas and different types of curriculum. It's also allowed us to offer opportunities for multiple staff movements, not just in the academic domain, but in our professional services as well. So we are taking skill sets from both sides of the university out into Georgia, and we're also developing our members of staff as well and giving them the opportunity to take part in different international exchanges. And I think that the partnership that we have in terms of our inclusion and how we have included both academic and professional services is something that's quite unique to this partnership, and it's something that we're really interested to keep growing. That said, we have, I mean, as you imagine, encountered many challenges along the way. So we do have in there, so motivation, skill level of staff. Both GTU and Keele have undergone significant institutional restructures during the partnership, and I think it's a testament to the partnership itself that it's managed to continue around both of those restructures, and that those agendas have managed to stay important and at the forefront of both universities. I see the skill level of staff dealing international, we've managed to develop that as we go along, and build that on both the academic and professional services. We have resource challenges that we've overcome bit by bit, so creating different workshops, resources for both sides to use. During COVID, we had huge travel restrictions, so we had to take the project online, which with a language barrier, you can imagine was quite difficult, but I think it's a challenge that both sides took up admirably, and we did manage to continue the partnership, but also continue full series of workshops and events in an online forum. And then going forward, most of our challenges sit around the sustainability. So as we come to the end of Creative Spark funding, we have managed to incorporate different parts of Erasmus and other fundings, but we now need to be able to sustain that either through university resources or other funding partnerships. And that's one of the biggest challenges that we're going to be taking into the next 12 months. Okay, so our plans for the future. So as we've already said in this presentation, so again, I won't labour on this too much, but we really want to expand those networks, not just at Keele, but other institutions in the UK, and not just GTU, but other institutions in Georgia, and looking beyond Georgia as well, so other maybe post-Soviet companies or other developing nations in this area, to take what we've done and see if we can create a successful partnership in other areas. We also want to continue sharing resources on a local and national level, because of the things that we've learned and the things that we're planning and what we know about enterprise education. We're going to keep continuing our curriculum and trying to embed more of that, but also creating new workshops. And then the research agenda. And I think the research agenda is really important in this area, because there is a change in Georgia in terms of their culture. So becoming more Western, their businesses are becoming more technologically advanced, their startups are in a place where actually there's a really interesting change in Georgia and an interesting change in the UK that we can capitalise on as a research. And then publicity. We're not really very good at talking about what we do, and this is one of the first events that we've done that shares this wider. So we want to continue to share the way that we've done and publicise that a little bit better. Okay, and the presentation really develops on those spider maps, so I'm not going to keep talking about those, but some of the big things that we've done. So we've created partnership in other areas of the university. So to our research grant office, these are new structures within Georgia, and Keele has been doing it a long time, and we would like to transfer some of that learning and that learning curve to GTU to help them with the process that we undertake. And then we also had the development of a management for engineering course, which is going to be launched very soon. And then we've initiated quite a lot of funding bids in engineering or hard applied skills areas. Okay, so one of the things is that it has opened up this possibility to do hard enterprise skills, opened up our research agenda and allowed us to work with other agencies such as GEA in Georgia, which is a newly formed association for enterprise and entrepreneurship education. And then going beyond Georgia, we'd like to create a playbook for embedding enterprise into the curricula, but also extra, create new partnerships in Georgia and other countries, and creating a research agenda that both universities can benefit from. I'm going to stop sharing now. And I would offer time for questions, but I think we went a little bit over on the questions last time. So if it's okay with everyone, we save your questions for the panel and we will move straight into the panel discussion. Okay, so for the panel, we're going to have Colin Rigby as the director to answer questions, Boris and Luca, and we're also going to be introducing Dr. Nick Gostick, who is the head of the Smart Innovation Hub and Science Park at Keele University. And then a new addition is Tamara. I don't know if you can unmute yourself, Tamara, as well. who is a postgraduate student at GTU who has come to work with us on enterprise activities at Keele for the next 12 weeks. And I have some questions to ask, but I'd really love if anybody else had questions that you can either add that to the chat, or if you feel comfortable to say that on your mic as well, if you're able to unmute. But while I let you think about that, I will start with the questions. So, and I'm going to go to Tamara first, because just to give you an opportunity to speak. So based on, I think some of the stuff that you'll have heard today is still new to you, but in terms of the student perspective, what does enterprise offer you, or what does this new enterprise agenda offer you that wasn't currently available?
So hello everyone. I hope you hear me well, because it's a little bit noise behind me. I'm in the hub and there are a lot of activities around me. Yeah, so first of all, I would like to state that I'm really lucky one. It's a student benefiting from all this overall 5 years partnership between GTU and Keele. And so what I really got here is that the Keele University is not only the university who states or announces that he's working with the businesses, but it really does, because I have seen here the local hubs. So they are having the local businesses, supporting them, the businesses which are self-employed and having no other employees actually, and trying to develop and go to the bigger scales. And the university is really supporting with the students and with their researches and resources. So also together with that, with the laboratories and technologies to which the local small businesses or self-employed businesses may not have a touch or access. So from my point of view, that's very good. What could be said as a difference between what I have seen here and the practice in Georgia, I would say that, yeah, in Georgia also there are many self-employed businesses which want to grow up, but they have no possibilities, they have no support. Not from the university, so like Keele is doing. If this module would shift to Georgia as well, and they would have more support, so from the laboratories or from the engineering or from the technologies or from the staff or academics, so they would really have the possibility to grow themselves faster. And so this is what I'm experiencing right now in Keele, and I'm really excited, because involving students or involving the postgraduates or undergraduates does not matter. So the students, they are coming with a lot of ideas, they are coming with a lot of innovative ones, and once the business have a possibility to take them, to think about them, to study them, and don't spend any extra resources, so not the finances, not the technical ones, so I guess it's a very good step for them to get developed. So actually, I'm really very happy being here, and I want that the others are also having a chance that they benefit from it and develop themselves, and also take these experiences and try to implement it in Georgia as well. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Tamara. Okay, so our next question will be for Nick. As Nick's our director of our Smart Innovation Hub, which covers quite a lot of programs that involve businesses and business support, but also the director of our science park. So he has a wider institution. So Nick, what are the benefits of this type of partnership? And I'm thinking not just the business school, but outside in the wider university context, but also our local ecosystem and our local community of businesses.
Okay, thanks, Emma. Yeah. So I think probably one of the first benefits, and we'll perhaps start internal, and that's for the team, for the people that are delivering enterprise activities and education at Keele. I think working with another partner and helping them to develop helps us to think more clearly about what it is that we're doing. And I think that's been very, very helpful to see, you know, a slightly different perspective on what we're doing and the contribution that we're making. It helps us to develop what we're doing as well, because sometimes when you're running a program, particularly with the sort of funding that we use in the UK, you get locked into a particular way of delivery, and working with another partner gives you opportunity to refine, improve, reinvigorate what you're doing yourselves. So it's not a one-way relationship by any means, and I think we've benefited as well. I think looking in the wider context, it's quite challenging for smaller companies in the UK to reach out and to look more internationally, and for our students to think out internationally in terms of the businesses that they start and that they fund. And I think it's a real challenge, but a real opportunity to be international in your outlook from the outset. So I think working with partners from other countries helps our students and our businesses to have that wider perspective from the outset. I think that is quite sector specific. Some sectors, like for instance life sciences, tend to have companies that are international from the start. It's the nature of the sector. But a lot of sectors tend to be quite parochial and look very locally for their businesses, and by expanding their horizons and understanding the business ecosystems in other countries gives them the opportunity to internationalize their business and more opportunities to grow and expand and to develop. I'll probably think of quite a few more benefits as we discuss, but I think that's a good starting position for me.
Okay, thank you very much, Nick. So in terms of looking at, I don't know, Georgia specifically, Boris and Luca, what do you think sits beyond this partnership? What do you think are going to be the results? Do you see a situation where there is more resource allocated to that, or is that one of the challenges that we're going to have to continue pushing, or do you see resources coming from the top level?
Could you repeat again?
Okay, so in terms of
last word I could not understand.
It's okay. So in terms of the resources that you need to carry on with this activity, do you think that's something that we need to create an infrastructure for, or can you see a future where the university adds more resource into this area?
First of all, we did not mention that this innovation center, this is self-founded center. So the people, we are working there, but we not get any salaries from directly to our institution. This is like extra job, and this is like a platform. If we will find and bring more opportunities, I mean founding, etc., we can do more projects. So till now we are in 2017, sorry, and whole this period we have projects.
Yeah. I think we've lost your audio a little bit, Boris.
Sorry,
There you go. You're back now. We just lost your audio at the end there.
And as you, Emma and Colin, you know that we're really trying to find more opportunities to found our ideas and bring it here.
Yeah.
And of course, we do a lot of effort for that. The resources, what we need, the first of all, I would mention this is human resources. English is a very big problem here, you know. The people, okay, they work very good in Georgian languages, but English, it's still problem here. So maybe people have good idea, but they need to create strong team. And also some experience regarding the business relations, also there is problem. I mentioned that business did not want to work with us, but there is other side also. There was problem between our academic staff. They want to work with businesses and do real researches. This is also a big problem. So I would mention two resources here. human resources, and of course the founding.
Yeah.
And with grant office, which is now new here, we work a lot. And they even trying to set some kind of data of people. I don't know how honest, how right to say it, but they are collecting data.
Yeah.
For example, people with good English, people with good some different ideas.
Yeah.
And they really want to improve situation here. But in the innovation center level, need not only position, we need some kind of help from the top management, which is happening now, because there was this a construction of management structure, and now we have official office also, and innovation center is part of this office.
Yeah.
So this is what can I answer your question.
Thank you. Okay, so I've got two connected questions actually, and they're going to be aimed primarily at Colin. But I would say if anybody else wants to, kick in about how you think we might do that, we'll probably save that for the breakout discussion and discussion afterwards. But in terms of how we, articulate the outcomes of this type of project, how can we evaluate effectively, and what should we be measuring in terms of project successes that allows us to not only carry on this agenda, but garner more resources?
Okay, well, I'm glad you saved the easy one for me, that's all.
I did.
Okay, well, I mean, like all projects that are actually funded, yeah, firstly, we have to service the funding. Yeah, so we're going to evaluate them based on the evaluation that the funders actually require of us. That rarely captures what actually goes on. It merely gives us an idea of where the money went. Yeah. Okay, it's like anything else really, that it will become sustainable and become self-funding if we actually do things that people are willing to pay for, that we actually add value into organisations, and both university and commercial. Yeah. And I think what we need to be doing is finding a way of capturing some of the current stories that allow us to overcome some of the potentially cultural barriers that are stopping this sort of the GTU taking its place in its infrastructure and its knowledge infrastructure. Now, how that is done is not necessarily simple, but I think one of the ways in which we can do that, and I think we've already started down that road, is to look for international grant funding, yeah, to solve particular problems and to solve particular dilemmas, therefore demonstrating the sort of commercial viability of the intellectual work that we do. Yeah, and whilst doing that, keeping an eye on making sure that we have this other body, which is the student body, involved in the process of doing that and in the execution of those sorts of grants, that allows for that wider ecosystem to emerge.
Thank you. I'm going to open that question up to Nick as well. So from your point of view as a wider, what should the evaluation or what the measurement of this type of program look like?
Okay, I'm still open. Yeah. Yeah, it's always challenging. How do you get meaningful metrics from this sort of activity? And I guess there's those metrics which are quite or more straightforward to capture, the number of people that engage with it, and the number of assistances and the businesses assisted. But some of those impacts really take much longer to see the impact of, and that's in terms of the career progression of some of the students who have engaged with the process, the progression of some of the companies which have engaged with the process, and I think we started off talking about ecosystems, but that business ecosystem that we create around these senses of activity and any longer term links between the two clusters effectively, but capturing that is quite difficult, and it almost needs longer term follow up, but that is inevitably long after the funding has moved on. So I think it's important to capture some of those activities, but I would also challenge what can we do looking a bit further forward I ran a series of boot camps for entrepreneurs back in 2007. I think I did them, and it was quite interesting to go back and look at them sort of 8-9 years later and speak to some of the people who had been there and actually see whether there had been a lasting impact, or whether they even remembered it. And the actual feedback was very encouraging and very interesting, and to see an impact over a larger time period, because I think enterprise, there's some short-term impacts, but there's some longer-term impacts as well.
Thank you very much. So in terms of questions, does anybody else have any questions for the panel?
Just to follow up on Nick's point, I think we could really do with some help with all of this. This is the part that as Keele University that we're actually really bad at. Yeah. So we get really excited. We do all these great projects. We have all this material go out into the world. We support innovation across a wide range of organisations. We have returning customers. We have people absolutely delighted with us. But actually, what we tend to focus on is getting the next batch done, doing the operational detail of it, making sure that those students have great experiences, making sure those organisations get what they need. And what we're not great at is creating this narrative that goes along with it, creating the story, yeah, and getting the reward that comes from that story. So it is an area that, you know, both organisations really need to look at a bit more carefully. And that sounds brutally harsh on ourselves, but it's nonetheless true.
Thanks. So I'm just thank you, Colin and Nick. I'm just looking in the chat. So Peter, you've shared an experience of lockdown, having students moving over, and I mean that's quite a different culture. So you're moving, they're two radically different cultures. But you finding the same sort of challenges that we've been talking about today?
Well, just on that, I mean, I could put it in the chat, and indeed on our project that we're at Portsmouth, where we're doing an Office for Students funded project, which some of you know of, the Student Experience of Knowledge Exchange, and in fact we've been dialoguing with, talking to some of your colleagues in Keele and in Birmingham University, and when these projects, I think there are 20 of them, officially end, which is round about any time now. Some ended last year in July. I think the UK has a massive opportunity to share those findings abroad, and let's say with Georgia, because just to on that issue of the students working in different cultures, we're doing a big survey of students, academics, graduates, and externals to try and find out what makes for successful learning in this working with externals. You can call it enterprising of some sort across different disciplines, and who benefits and what's that longer term tracking. Now we spent a lot of time and money designing the survey. So the survey will be published hopefully end of July, and people can say, yeah, I can take those questions. We can build our own local metrics. We've been asking students like the impact on their skills from communicating, teamwork, and before and after, self-efficacy. Beforehand I was this confident, afterwards I'm now that confident. We've been asking the externals, and we're doing interviews as well. So this issue of metrics and figuring out what works, rather than, as Colin's saying, going to the next batch, is proving to be really interesting. So I think we can share more of this within UK, and we can kind of shortcut it. And I'll put the link to our CSCB project in the chat. But just the issue about working abroad, that just happened because the students who are in level 6, this is in curriculum, a level 6 20 credit module, we're stuck in China. They're entitled to study because they're on the module, and it's a consultancy type model. And we thought, well, we'll do the whole thing via Zoom. But what we found was there were quite big language barriers. And for the academic staff, me in particular, we had to be more present, because if you have let's say a UK client and some Chinese students where the English isn't very good, there needs to be some kind of mediation, you know, and even practical things like myself interpreting what the client was saying to the students by putting it in a chat, because if your English isn't brilliant, you can't always understand it. So we learn from COVID, but yeah, very happy to follow up with you folks.
Yeah, that would be really great. And I think, and I don't want to speak for Colin, but Colin's work on the OFS project that you were alluding to was probably the first time in a long time where you've had the chance to work on what evaluation and what a toolkit for evaluation might look like in these instances. And then the other thing that I would say, that in terms of what we do in our extracurricular, so the CRISP programme, is because we have a member of my team, so my role as a research and innovation advisor, and the research innovation advisor acts as that mediation between the academic, the student and the business. And that can often mean project management, timekeeping, expectations of outcomes, and managing those expectations of, well, everybody, ensuring that everyone wins, sometimes acting as a bit of a counsellor to any one of those partnerships, but also shoring up everyone's confidence. And I think that the role that we play in that project is overlooked in many different academic versions of what this consulting model looks like. But it's actually an incredible skill, and it's an incredible asset to the businesses that have access to someone that can mediate all sides of that partnership, not only from a business point of view, but for students who are trying to find their feet in terms of finding what their career might be or their development, and the businesses who might never have engaged with universities previously, because universities, particularly one like Keele that sits on a hill with a big wall around it, quite scary for a business to engage with. Okay, so we do have another question in the chat, which is from Britta, and I'm going to give it to Colin. I think, in terms of, have you considered, oh, my light's just gone back on as well, it's just remembered I'm here, considered a logic model and theory of change approach for evaluating, oh, Peter, you make it move, evaluating the impact of the programme?
I mean, the simple answer is yes. The longer answer is it's a little complicated, and we're still on a journey. I think, I mean, where we started with our own OFS project is in actually just trying to see, is enterprise work worth doing? Yeah, is it delivering some of the things that we sort of take on faith really that it delivers? Yeah, and essentially trying to find a way of measuring those sorts of distance travel type for students, especially amongst the more deprived students. So the longer answer is, have a look at the model that we've actually come up with. We'll be publishing. We actually launched it last Wednesday. It'll be starting to come around. We'll be in touch with people about it. But we are going to be structurally embedding that into our own practice as a part of every project that we do, to see if we can actually collate some meaningful results from it.
And what's that? Oh yeah, so to say, actually, I will give Peter a little plug because he is one of our enterprise fellows at Keele. So Peter's doing some research on informal knowledge exchange, and would like to talk to anybody that might have any input to that research that isn't normally documented in this process. There you go, Pete. There's a little knowledge. But because of that, now you need to think of a really good question for the panel.
Well, that's the payback, is it?
Yeah.
What do I have to think now? Or
right this very second. Come on, we've got 8 minutes.
Peter, could you tell us a little bit more about the project you're working on? That sounds kind of interesting, actually.
Oh, is that okay?
Yeah,
okay. Yeah, thanks, Britta. Yeah, so a lot of the kind of pedagogy that goes into these sorts of, sorry, just back a little bit. So enterprise education does rely a lot on these kind of pedagogies, which are broadly called applied pedagogies. That is where students do the thing they're being taught in class and they practice it on a company. That's been going on for a long time. And we know what happens to the students because we assess them afterwards and we get a lot of feedback, but we don't really know what happens to the businesses. We often ask them informally and anecdotally what happened, and they usually say, yeah, it's great. but we don't really capture that, and that's an opportunity missed for us to really demonstrate that actually, yes, we've got this formal knowledge exchange over here, well recorded, but what about the massive stuff we do with businesses informally? What is that recorded, and can we begin to capture that as an output? So I'm trying to do that, working with a couple of other institutions to interview businesses who have gone through those processes, asking them what exactly they got from it. Often it's not the thing they thought they would get. So again, it's really interesting trying to capture that interaction and the kind of benefits that the businesses get from it. That makes sense.
And I think actually there's probably some learning, Pete, that we might need to discuss in the future about how we assess the businesses and how we move that over to a country like Georgia, where this assistance model is quite new and it's quite novel. So
Yeah.
how we carry that learning over to a more international basis.
Yeah.
Okay, so before we head out for a quick break, does anybody have any other questions for the panel, Pete?
So yeah, what are the questions? I suppose one of the questions is going back to ecosystems and those kind of things that that you need to have in an ecosystem. And it just made me think about the sort of those parts of the ecosystems which enable or kind of intervene between them. And I wondered what in Georgia, whether there's that kind of infrastructure or those kind of people that join together the dots, which sometimes are universities, but they're also consultants and maybe networks as well. So I was wondering whether you've got that sort of infrastructure in place to enable all those bits to join up. That's my question.
Yeah. I think that is a question for Boris and Luca, and I think partially the formation of GEEA might be the start of that conversation.
Yeah, thank you for question. Yes, formation of GEA is partly answer to that, but also we have this GITA, the Georgian Innovation Technology Agency, which also does this type of activities and this like of main hub in the country nationwide, which connects all these dots. And also we have several these types of agencies on the local government level as well, and also we have some private initiatives as well. So that's it.
I think in terms of your infrastructure in Georgia, you are at a really interesting place. So you are starting to see the presence of incubation centres and technology centres, and that the more sort of structured support that we offer in the UK. So as you've said previously, you are on this journey with us. You're just starting that a little bit later, but hopefully the partnership between not only the UK, but the things that you're doing with the USA and other parts of Europe can help bring you along much faster on that pathway.
Can I add one more thing here? I don't know how is the direct answer, but Colin will agree with me that when we started creating a short course, entrepreneur management for engineers, we wanted to create it as a product what we can sell. So directly say.
Yeah.
This is kind of type of consulting also. So we want to offer this, but we cannot do it now because it's related to many things, minimum some structural things here and also the marketing. But we wanted to do this training course and for the sustainable development of innovation center, put there as a product which can be sell to the businesses, because here in Georgia it's very popular now. Consulting, like offer a lot of organizations are offering business kind of trainings and modules, and it's just really popular here. Yeah, and if we think that if GTO will provide it, it will be much more popular, because GTO has its own really high background and high level like standards to compare Georgian situation here. So it was comment what I wanted to say.
Thank you very much, Boris.
But this program we are now offering now to students without any fees. It's free.
Thank you. Okay, so before we head into the break, is there any more questions for any members of the panel?
I have to go at 11, but I just like the idea of an ecosystem. And I mean, I'm very new to this this partnership, wonderful partnership we've heard about, but you just think, could we develop a joint model of an ecosystem? That's one point. And the second point, as I put in the chat, we're finding in Portsmouth that it's great having all these networks, but in practicality, to build on, I think, Boris's and Luca's point, you do need to fund somebody for a front desk, you know, because unless, whatever university you're in, unless you are a business that knows which faculty school, or even within, you know, where my project, is it suitable for postgraduate, in curriculum, off curriculum. I think most universities have got that for research, very, very strong research kind of partnerships, but for the education aspect, for the knowledge exchange with students, we don't have that. And there's something we might be probably recommending in our research, and we could kind of recommend potentially a model that, you know, other people can adapt and scale up. So that's one finding that's coming out, that we really do need this infrastructure to support this ecosystem. You need actually bodies, you know, sitting at desks who've got that, you know, senior management, really senior, and, you know, a small team to support that.
Yeah, I completely agree. And it's one of the things I think that we found at Keele when we started to look not just at our enterprise offering, but more broadly the research that we have with businesses. And the solution that we had at Keele is we created the business gateway. So you have the university in the main reception that you would get all normal university inquiries to, but we also have the business gateway, which is a dedicated entrance into the university for all businesses. And that can be from anything for, I can't do this, I need help, can you do that, to I know how to work with universities, I have lots of money to spend, let's do research together. And so we're trying to capture, you know, the relationships with businesses or inquiries from business from every level. And we do that through our gateway, and the gateway is the overarching support mechanism that covers both all of our central services staff that are involved with any type of business engagement. Cool. Thank you very much. Okay, so we are on 11:01. So I think we'll go now for, thank you very much, Peter, if you see come back. And so we have a 15-minute break before we go into the discussion panels. That's okay. Thank you very much.